This last video is on collision search attacks. The idea is that you have a bunch of keys and you're trying to break a lock or open a lock. So an example would be a thief walks into a parking lot and tries to steal a car. How many keys must that thief try? So you have a bunch of keys, you have go into a parking lot, there's a ton of cars, and it depends because the keys and locks have changed over the years. So back in 1924, chances are if you have 100 cars in a parking lot, you probably need about at least 100 keys, and maybe one of them will open up one of the cars. And the thief might be after a particular car, or might be just wanting to steal any car that's available. But back in 1924, unless you want to break a window or something, steal things that way, you needed to try at least as many keys as there were cars. Things have changed though. These days, parking lot in 2018, there's a bigger variety of cars, but then there are devices that the thieves can use. You can buy these things. You probably shouldn't for sure. That will try all possible codes. So remember, these are codes sent out wirelessly, assuming all of these cars have these communication devices. And these devices will try one key after another. If you're generating 10 per second, you can basically try 2 to the 15, which is a pretty big number, 32,000 in an hour. And essentially what that means is that it only takes minutes for a code to work in a parking lot filled with cars, let's say 100 or more of them. And plus, once you get the key right, the car that you opened will flash its lights, hopefully, because those are the kinds of commands that you can give it. Flash your lights to unlock it. Okay, so these are called collision search attacks. You have a bunch of keys, you have a bunch of locks, and you're trying to open maybe just one of them. Okay, let me get this just right. Okay, so recapture statistics, just using statistics, or also called meet in the middle attacks. You can use multiple keys in parallel and generate a whole bunch of test vectors. That is some plain text encrypted under each key, and then typically, and this is for a certain kind of encryption. So 56 we'll talk about more. That's a number that was used with DES. So if you have DES and you're trying to break it, there's a lot of places that still use DES, and these are the brute force ways that you can use to break into DES. So you can do a brute force search that is generate all 56 possible keys, and so that's called a 2 to the power 56 search for one key. But you can convert this 2 to the power 56, which is a huge number, to a 2 to the 40 search for any one of these 2 to the 16 keys. So you're breaking down this huge search space into really a much smaller space, and that's really what a lot of people do. There's various forms of this. One form of it is called rainbow tables. So any one key of a given type is usually enough. Typical hardware security modules, crypto processors translate between keys of one type. So there are poor implementations of triple DES where you use the same key twice, once to encrypt and then you decrypt and then encrypt. That's what triple DES does, and we'll talk about more about what triple DES does later. And so this allows a triple DES key halves to be attacked individually. So that's a weakness of triple DES. Basically, triple DES is only a tiny bit stronger than DES itself. Okay. Another thing that you could use is you can use the crypto processor to actually generate keys. And so what you can do is generate 2 to the power 16 keys using the crypto processors, and then encrypt these test vectors and generate, try 16 of them in parallel, and then you start from 0, you step through 1, 2, 3, and so on. And then on the PC side, you can do a 2 to the 40 search. So more details about this later. The idea is that you can use things in parallel and do a little bit of effort, just part of the total 56-bit key space, with a whole bunch of things done in parallel to cut down on the amount of time that you need to for all the keys to try all the different key combinations. So that's called collision search attack on hardware security modules. You can use the crypto processor to sort of break into it and get keys out, so by brute force. Okay.